Hello there, welcome back to my channel. I was on Instagram the other day and I saw somebody, I think she's a makeup artist in Poland, I believe. I'm going to put a picture of her up on my screen so that you can see exactly what my inspiration picture is. She does master classes and she often shares pictures of the final result. So her or her students' work on the model, demonstrating skills and learning and whatnot. And they're always beautiful and gorgeous. And this particular picture really caught my attention because I loved how you could see the lavender blending into like a burgundy brown sort of color scheme. So that is what I'm going to try to recreate today. If you're new to my channel, hi there, my name is Rachel. I'm a homeschooling stay-at-home mom and I love to play with colorful eyeshadow. My channel has all kinds of colorful eyeshadow related things, collections, tutorials, declutters, rankings, tours, palette bingos, anything like that. If you're interested, you might want to consider liking and subscribing because I upload about 3 videos a week. Okay, so the palettes that I've chosen to do today's look are the Lilac You a Lot palette from ColourPop. I think in this palette I'm going to grab this lavender shade right here, possibly that one. It looks brown in the pan, but it's actually not. It's a lot more of a purple color than you'd expect based on how it looks in the pan. It doesn't really translate the same way on the eyes. And then I am going to grab the Melt Amor y Mariposas palette, and I almost said from Melt. I already said Melt. I think I'm going to get this shade right here, which is called Maria. And this shade here is called Nueva Vida. And that's my plan. I don't really know how it's going to turn out. I don't really have a solid plan as far as what I'm doing. I just looked at the picture before I started filming because it was on my phone. I'm like, okay, that's the goal. So let's get started. I have already primed my eyes using the Glamlight Icing Primer in the shade White Frosting. Now I'm going to take a medium-sized blending brush. It's slightly pinched, but it doesn't really make a difference for what I'm doing. I'm going to go into the Lilac You a Lot palette from ColourPop, and I think I'm going to take the shade Imagine That, which is the one that looks a little brown in the pan and it's not really. And I'm going to place that as a transition shade, like just a wash of that color, starting in the crease, working towards the bridge of the nose. And then this eye look is going to be blown out a little bit, I think. I'm not really sure. I don't have a solid plan. I just know the color scheme and the general way I want it to look, but I don't want it to be as dramatic as that inspiration picture, so I'm not going to blow it out far, like I'm not going to pull it all the way out in this huge triangular shape towards my temple. I'll probably just fade this shadow out into this area a little bit and let it go at that. I'm also just going to carry this color using the same brush down onto my lower lash line. I'm not going to bother grabbing a smaller brush because it's such a light color. And this is going to be sort of a smoky kind of blown out look. I'm not too worried about it being that neat. And then when I get over here, you see I'm doing a general like angled out shape, but because this is such a light shade, it's not making anything really dramatic. Alright, that's looking very smoky and soft. I really like it. Remember that if you put too much on the bottom, or if you have maybe bags under your eyes, or you're looking tired, or I don't know, maybe you just don't like how it turned out. Like if I decide that this maybe is a little bit too blown out in the bottom lower lash line, it's not a big deal because I'll just take some concealer and tidy it up. No big deal, not a problem, easy to change. I think I'm going to stick with my standard technique of starting in the outer corner and kind of working the look from there. I'm pretty comfortable with that, and since I don't have a firm plan for this look, I don't want to jump into something that's new. I'm going to take a detail crease brush from e.l.f. The 2 shades that I'm really looking at within the Melt palette are Maria and Nueva Vida. This is Maria. It is a deep plum sort of matte. And then this is Nueva Vida, which is more of a brown toned matte. Nueva Vida is actually a lighter tone color, just slightly. However, I think I want this look to go from the purples into the browns, and Nueva Vida is more brown. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to grab the shade Almohada, which is a lighter toned but still plummy purple matte. I'm dipping in very lightly with this shadow, just a little bit, and I'm going to put it in this outer corner area and drag it onto the lid in the outer corner, and I'll also put it in the crease area. I think this is going to be my base purple color. I'm going to leave the inner part to be lavender, but this whole outer third or so, I'm going to start with this purple here. So I'm putting it in the outer, actually not even outer third, probably outer half. I'm putting it in the crease and making sure that I cover the lid on the outer half. Yesterday I was at the grocery store and I was just shopping for a couple of things, and I happened upon these little silicone dish scrubbers, like just a round silicone mat with little nubbies on it that you use to scrub your dishes. And I had a couple of thoughts. My first thought was, that doesn't look very effective for scrubbing dishes, because if you have caked on food, then those little rubber nubbies are just gonna slide around and not do anything. I don't know for sure. I was kind of assuming based on life experience. And then my second thought was, hey, I wonder how that would work as a brush cleaner. Because I don't know if you've seen the Sigma Switch, which is like a large silicone mat with different sections that have different kinds of raised nubbies. You know, some are more close together or more dense, some are longer and more flexible, some are shorter. They're just, it's a bigger mat and it has different sections for cleaning your brushes. It looks kind of cumbersome and awkward, but I've heard that it works quite well actually. And I thought, I wonder how this would compare to the Sigma Switch as far as a brush cleaner instead of using, you know, a traditional color switch. And I put it in my cart, and it was like $3, $4. It's not like it was some great expense. And I'm walking along, bebopping away, going down the aisle to get sugar and dog treats. And I thought, do I really need to spend this money? Yes, it's $4. Do I really need to spend the $4 on the little silicone mat? I was rationalizing to myself, like, well, if it doesn't work well as a color switch, then I can just use it for, you know, like a face exfoliator I can put in the shower. It'll be useful. No, it was rationalization. It was an unnecessary purchase, and I ended up putting it back because I didn't need it. I just didn't need it. But I thought it was so funny that my first thought was, that's probably not a very good dish scrubber. And my second thought was, ooh, I wonder how it would work for my makeup brushes. I kind of adore this color. I'm going to take the brush that I used for the lavender color and just work on the edges slightly to blend them out a little bit, and always keeping it in that triangle sort of blown out direction. Now I'm going to take a smaller round brush. This is not as dense as a pencil brush is. It's more of a blending brush, but it is round. And I am going to take the shade Maria. Again, dipping in lightly because I can always deepen it if I want. And Maria is going to be placed on this outer corner in the outer crease as well. And just slightly deepen up the purple that I laid down first. Remember, the whole point is a nice gradient. And I think this look was matte. If I'm remembering the inspiration picture right, then the whole thing was matte, and I'm okay with that because I do love an all matte look. It can be dramatic without being too glitzy, but still be quite glamorous. I don't know. It's just, they're just beautiful. I much prefer an all matte look to an all shimmer look. In fact, I pretty much never do an all shimmer look. I don't think I ever have done an all shimmer look, and I don't really prefer the way that they look when I see them either. I just think that all matte gives you a lot more options as far as blending shadows together and getting depth of tone and shade. I think that all shimmer looks, even if you can achieve those same things with all shimmer, the light hitting the shimmer and the reflection and the height of sparkle and stuff, those things are additional elements which tend to be a bit distracting or detracting. So I like an all matte look more than all shimmer because I think that you get better and more interesting results with all matte. Now with a yet smaller blending brush, I'm going to dip into the brown matte called Nueva Vida. And this one I want to cover the whole outer area and kind of, I think you can see in the camera that I've got the cat eye thing going on in a general shape. I haven't made it as distinct as I used to, where I would take, you know, a flat eyeliner pencil and just, there's my line. I wanted it more smoky, but just the general cat eye up and out movement. And so that part of the look I want to be more brown. So I'm taking this shadow and I'm placing it in that outer area, working with that movement and making it more brown. Obviously, it's not going to be as stand out or dramatic as my inspiration picture, but it's going to add an interesting element. Like, I don't think I would have expected or thought to pair lavender with burgundy brown, and yet when she did it, it looked so beautiful. And I think the way for me to keep this from looking too much like a superhero mask is to carry that down onto the lower lash line. So I'm taking a small pinched blending brush. I'm going to dip into the shade Almojada, which is the lighter of the two purple mattes that I used. And just starting in the outer corner here where I have color already, I'm just dragging that down. And then I'll dip progressively into the next darker and then the brown. Okay, that's it for the melt palette for now. It's a little bit untidy in general as far as these lower lines are getting a little too smoked out, and I will fix all of that up later, but right now I want to add the lavender. Okay, so I did put some shadow in the crease when I first started the look. I did sort of a wash of that lighter color. And then with these darker shadows, I didn't necessarily put them on the inner part of the lid, but some shadow would have moved over. So I know that if I put a very light toned shade like lavender on top of what's there now, it's not really gonna show up. And I want this to show up. So I'm gonna take some concealer. You could also use an eye primer if you don't have concealer, or if you prefer to use primer. I've just placed the concealer on my hand, and I'm going to take a small flat C or shader brush, and I'm going to dip into the concealer and use this to essentially cut my crease. Now, I'm not so concerned that it's very specific. I'm not doing like a hyper cut crease look, but I want the lavender shadow to really show up. And so I'm cutting my crease, dragging it over to the bridge of my nose and slightly higher than my crease so that it's visible when my eyes are open, because I have slightly hooded eyes. And then I'm just letting it kind of fade off towards those other tones. I'll also bring the concealer down onto the lower lash line because, again, I did place that lighter purple everywhere. It's everywhere. So I'm bringing that down onto the lower lash line so that the lavender, which I intend to pull down, will also show up there. And then when I have these more distinct edges, I'm just going to take my finger and kind of tap them to buff them out a little bit, so that the shadow blends nicely into the next shadow, even though it's on top of a concealer. Now I have a cleaner foundation to lay down a light toned shadow. I'm going to take a small pencil or blending brush, dip into the shade Zoned Out within the Lilac You A Lot palette. This is probably my most used shade out of this palette. And place that right at the edge of where the darker purples are going to meet the concealer. Now I have realized, looking in this palette, that it's not quite as light of a lavender as I want. So instead of using it to cover the whole concealed area, I think I might see if I can find a lighter lavender in a different palette. I'm thinking specifically the Michaela palette from Glamlight might have a lighter toned lavender. So I'm just going to place this where the two colors would intersect as a transition point, and then I will check out the Michaela palette and others in my collection and see if I can find a lighter toned lavender and something that would just maybe pop a little bit more. If not, then this palette, I mean, this would be pretty either way. I just want something a little bit lighter. So I'm going to finish up this bit right here where I'm merging the lavender into the darker mauve colors. And then I'll be right back after I have a look through my collection. Okay, yeah, the Michaela palette from Glamlight had a beautiful lavender that I'm going to grab. If you don't have that palette and you're actually following this tutorial, you can fully 100% stay within the Lilac You A Lot palette. If you have the Love Notes palette from Beauty Bay, there are a couple of lavenders in there that might be good as well. But I'm going to grab the color MJ from Michaela and put it on the rest of this area. So this is still ending up to be a little bit darker than I was expecting, but I love the blue tone that it's bringing. And usually I would do light, dark, darkest. This is more like a medium and then a lighter and then dark, darkest. But I think it's really, really pretty. I was intending that it would be lighter tone, but I do think it's quite pretty. Maybe I will grab the Love Notes palette and see if I could do something with it, but I don't want to I mean, it doesn't need to be out of hand. I'm just having fun. That's what I'm doing. Just having fun, playing with colors. Alright, I've given up on the fact that anybody might actually be following this tutorial, but I'm having so much fun. I am in the Love Notes palette from Beauty Bay because I wanted all of the lavenders. I have a small pencil or a blending brush. I'm dipping into the shade Soap, which is a very, very light toned purple. And I'm putting that on the inner corner onto the lower lash line here. Basically, I'm just putting it on top of the purple that I just laid down before, and it's making this blue-toned purple from the Glamlight palette more of a lavender lilac sort of color. I like to have a light inner corner. I like how it brightens up at the bridge of the nose, and that's why I'm doing this. I love the blue tone of the purple that I laid down, and I don't want to fully cover it. I just want to cover it at the inner corner highlight area so that it doesn't make me look sort of tired. And I think I just need to let it go now because it's already gorgeous and I can just keep piling shadow on shadow on shadow, and I mean, not much is going to change from here. So I'm going to go find a waterline color and throw on some eyeliner and mascara and finish everything up, and then I'll be back to show you how it ended up looking. Okay, so here is how it turned out. I put some white in the waterline and just did some eyeliner, mascara, and pretty much that's it. I didn't do anything else on my face because I thought that it would be overkill. And on my lips I am wearing a ColourPop lip oil in the shade Hay. So my final thoughts on this look: I love it. I love it so much. I think it's gorgeous. I think it is so moody and smoky and interesting. Again, I wouldn't have thought to pair lavender with burgundy, but it just works. I love Instagram for the sheer volume of creators and creativity. Sometimes it's a little bit much, sometimes I need to take a break, but I always go back to Instagram just to get ideas, and this is a prime example of that. I think this look is beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, for clicking on my video. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more. Please comment below with some ideas or things that you would specifically want to see. And don't forget that you can find me on Instagram at Shimmers and Silver, although, you know, today I'm not very shimmery, but that's okay. I had a great time making this video. Hope you like it, and until I see you again, I hope you have a really wonderful day. Bye!